Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Lawrence Welk Show, celebrating more than 50 years on television.
Good evening. In the news tonight, high gas prices are triggering a renewed interest in oil drilling in the Illinois basin, and another new face in the White House. And in sports, Albert Pujols continues to come through in the clutch for the Cardinals, and Brett Favre says he'll suit up for his 16th season in Green Bay. Newscenter 22 is next. First night, the Seymour, Indiana Police Department has issued an Amber Alert for a 2-year-old girl who has been abducted from her Seymour home late this morning. Police say Andrea Evans is 3 feet tall and 35 pounds with strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes. Andrea is believed to be in extreme danger. Andrea Evans was wearing a yellow dress and strawberry shortcake shoes. Seymour police say she was likely abducted by her father, Thomas J. Evans. He is believed to be driving a brown 1991 Toyota Corolla with license plate number 36C5736. Thomas Evans is 45 years old and is described as a white male, 5 feet 7 inches tall, 185 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing a teal shirt with a stripe, blue jeans, and black shoes. Evans walks with a limp, is balding, and has a mustache. The suspect should be considered armed and dangerous. If you have any information on Andrea Evans, please contact the Seymour Police Department at 1-8858-AMBER. The latest spike in oil prices is apparently fueling greater interest in prospecting in Illinois. So far this year, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Regulatory Oil and Gas Division has issued 245 oil drilling permits. Much of Illinois oil richness is traced to an underground reservoir known as the Illinois Basin, which sprawls across southern Illinois and parts of Kentucky and Indiana. Some estimate there are still billions of barrels in the basin. Illinois DNR spokesman Chris McLeod says that puts it on pace to hand out 735 by year's end. Last year, the state doled out 866 permits, much of that fed by increases in crude oil after the hurricanes that battered the Gulf Coast. In 2004, Illinois issued 650 of the permits. Oil drilling is already going on in about 40 of Illinois' 102 counties. The head of the National Corn Growers Association says recent gas price increases pose the latest whammy for farmers. Association Chairman Leon Corzine says farmers weathered a similar situation last year when gas prices spiked after hurricane ravaged the Gulf Coast at about the time they were harvesting their corn. Corzine says this year's price spikes are hitting during the prime planting time. Corzine himself is just finishing the sowing of about 1,500 corn acres near his home south of Decatur, Illinois. He also has 500 acres of soybeans to plant next month. The Valparaiso Police Department has limited the amount of gasoline officers can use each month. It's an effort to curb costs during the time of skyrocketing gasoline prices. Police Chief Michael Brickner says most officers will be able to continue their regular patrol duties and still have some gasoline left over to use while off duty. He says the limits are a better idea than other alternatives to save money, such as restrictions the use of squad cars for off-duty officers. The chief also says the gasoline limits may encourage more foot and bicycle patrols. The new policy takes effect May 5th. Governor Mitch Daniels signed legislation Tuesday that will increase tax credits for the development of ethanol and biodiesel production plants. The maximum amount of tax credits for those plants goes from $20 million to $50 million. Daniels says that will help Indiana reach its goal of becoming a leader in the crop-based fuel industry. Yesterday's signing marked the 1-year anniversary of the creation of Indiana's first cabinet-level agriculture department. Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman says that since then, the state has attracted about $735 million in new agriculture-related investments. She says most of that is from the new biofuels plant. Members of the Indiana State Budget Committee toured Vincennes University's new technology center today. The 5-member committee is responsible for approving all state spending, including the sale of bonds to fund VU's proposed $7 million advanced manufacturing training center. However, the committee has yet to act on the bond issue. The committee's next meeting is Friday in Evansville. The training center bonds are not on the agenda. Officials say the executive director of the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute has been placed on paid administrative leave pending a review by the state inspector general. The office of Governor Mitch Daniels said in a news statement today that Heather Boljak was placed on leave yesterday at the recommendation of Inspector General David Thomas. No other details of the inquiry were provided in the statement. A proposal to place an Army tank near the War Memorial in a Washington, Indiana city park has some questioning whether it would be safe or appropriate. The tank would join the other memorials and monuments on the Hill of Heroes to commemorate war veterans and those fighting now in the Middle East. The park board voted to support seeking an Army tank, which would be given to the city after being retired for military use. However, Councilman Steve Dyer says he doesn't believe a tank is suitable for the park. He says the park is serene and should not contain any Army equipment used to kill. But others say such equipment is being used to protect the American soldiers fighting in Iraq. A new Army report says it would take nearly 5 years longer to finish the destruction of a deadly nerve agent if a plan to ship the wastewater produced to New Jersey was dropped in favor of keeping it in Indiana. The new report says that disposing of the chemical waste at Western Indiana's Newport Chemical Depot would also cost more money than having work done at DuPont's deepwater plant in New Jersey. The Army says it prefers using DuPont to treat the wastewater created by the destruction of the Cold War-era VX nerve agent, even as opponents continue to raise safety concerns. Still to come on Newscenter 22, President Bush gets a new press secretary, and Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld were in Baghdad today to support that country's new government. Stay with us.
Immigration has transformed California into the world's most multi-ethnic region. Minorities are now the majority and have gained the power to remake the state. Nowhere else has this played out so dramatically as in Los Angeles.
President Bush jokes that Tony Snow knows most of the White House press corps, but he's agreed to step in as press secretary anyway. Bush has introduced the conservative Fox Network commentator as Scott McClellan's replacement, saying he'll make an outstanding addition to his staff. Snow has sometimes been critical of Bush, referring to him once as something of an embarrassment and another time as the architect of a listless domestic policy. Bush says he asked Snow about that and that Snow told him, "You should have heard what I said about the other guy." Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld and Secretary of State Rice are in Iraq today as surprise missions to show support for the emerging government. At a news conference, Rumsfeld said Iraq is moving forward.
We got him in battle space.
We've now gone through 2 elections, the drafting of a constitution, a referendum on a constitution, all of which the extremists have tried to stop and failed. And we now are moving through another important milestone, the formation of a new government, a sovereign government of Iraq, the first government that doesn't have a qualifier in front of it, it's not a transitional government, it's not an interim government, it's not a governing council, it's a government of Iraq, and that's an important thing. This is a sovereign country, and they're making impressive progress.
Army General George Casey says Iraq's selection of top government leaders marks a major step toward creating conditions that could allow a substantial number of U.S. troops to leave in the months ahead. Casey did not elaborate on his timeline for reducing American forces. More than 100 Iraqi civilians or police have been killed in attacks by insurgents or sectarian violence since Jaweh al-Maliki was named Iraq's future prime minister on Saturday. 6 more Iraqis and 2 insurgents died in the bombing of a passenger bus in Baghdad and other attacks today. And police found the bodies of 10 Iraqis who had been tortured. 4 bodies were found in Baghdad. 6 victims, each shot in the right eye, turned up in Kabul. Al-Maliki was asked to choose a cabinet on Saturday against a backdrop of U.S. expectations that a united Iraqi government will ease sectarian tensions and curtail the bloodshed. Military graduation ceremony was held Wednesday for the new Iraqi army. The ceremony included 154 soldiers from all over Iraq. They finished a 1-year course training in London and all have a bachelor's degree in military sciences. The graduation was held at the Iraqi Military College. If senators get their way, some of the money President Bush wants to spend on the war in Iraq will be used instead to increase patrols against illegal immigrants on the nation's borders. They approved an amendment today that would reduce Bush's Iraq request by nearly $2 billion to pay for tougher moves against illegal immigrants. At a Senate hearing in Washington today, parents who had been addicted to meth testified about how the highly addictive drug nearly destroyed their families. As meth users spreads, some lawmakers are concerned about the consequences for the child welfare system. Rachel Lee reports.
22-year-old Allison Bruno says she first tried methamphetamine, or meth, when her mother offered it to her at 13.
I felt like I needed meth to survive. I didn't want my daughter to be exposed to what I was doing, and I was ashamed of my addiction, but I had no idea how to stop.
A Senate hearing Tuesday spotlighted the impact of meth abuse on children and families.
I've seen children, enamel is decayed because of passive meth smoke in a household.
In a survey of welfare officials, 40% reported increased meth-related cases of child abuse and neglect. Experts testified success in some community treatment programs can be translated nationally.
In terms of methamphetamine being untreatable, that's not what the scientific literature would support. It's not what the evidence supports.
While the number of Americans seeking help for meth addiction is on the rise, abuse continues to spread. The health department reports more than 12 million people over the age of 12 have tried the drug at least once. 3 years sober, Bruno is now a college student.
My life is truly beautiful today, and I've never been as happy as I am now.
I'm Rachel Lee, reporting from Atlanta.
Thank you.
Families of 9/11 victims on the United Flight 93 are hoping Capitol Hill lawmakers will pressure House Appropriations Committee Chairman Charles Taylor to stop blocking money for a memorial. A statement from the North Carolina Republican says he's worried the memorial has shaky finances. Meanwhile, people went and gasped during last night's New York premiere of United 93, the movie about the flight that crashed in Pennsylvania on 9/11. Some relatives of passengers who fought back against hijackers sobbed at the film's climactic scene. The film opens nationwide Friday. It's been 20 years since explosions ripped through a Soviet nuclear reactor near what's now Ukraine's border with Belarus, releasing a radioactive cloud that drifted across much of Europe. Kyung La reports from the nation's capital.
The world's worst nuclear disaster. On April 26, 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, operators were performing a test ahead of a routine shutdown when reactor number 4 exploded. In a matter of days, an area of more than 77,000 square miles, about the size of South Dakota, was contaminated by radiation. Anatoly Raskazov was Chernobyl's official photographer. As Soviet authorities grappled with what had happened, he was ordered to fly over the smoldering reactor with his camera.
We couldn't see anything through the windows because of the smoke. I asked the pilots to open the door of the helicopter so I could take pictures. They were reluctant because they said the fumes and dust would be bad for us. But eventually they agreed, and I leaned out with an officer holding onto my legs so I wouldn't fall.
Following the explosion, some 200,000 people were evacuated from Ukraine alone. Experts blame the disaster on a combination of peculiarities in the design of the reactor and operator error. Over the years, thousands of people have been diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And while experts continue examining long-term health effects, estimates of the eventual death toll range between 9,000 and 93,000. I'm Kyung La reporting from Washington.
Half of teenagers who have been in a serious relationship have gone against their beliefs in order to please their partner. A survey by Teenage Research Unlimited also says 1 in 3 teenagers say they've been concerned about being physically hurt by their partner. And it finds that 1 out of 3 girls between 16 and 18 say sex is expected if they're in a relationship. Researcher Brian Lepak says there's pressure to be in a relationship and then to have sex. Lepak also says as teens get older, they become more accepting of behavior that could be viewed as abusive or controlling. The survey was commissioned by Liz Claiborne Incorporated. Drake University in DeMont holds a beautiful bulldog contest every year. For 27 years, meet this year's competition: a lawman, either a state trooper or a Monty, a firefighter, always popular, this guy or gal, a dude maybe. Now meet the winner, Hannah. She gets a crown and a cape to boot. Or is that too paw? Too many puns possible here, folks. Word is, Hannah has a shoe fetish. She likes to eat them. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Kurt Maddox has this evening's weather.
Coming up this week on 22 Magazine, Dr. Joseph Fox, Medical Director for Senior Markets at Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, will be my guest for a special half-hour show on Medicare Part D. It's the name of a new outpatient prescription benefit begun this year. If you're on Medicare and have a hefty monthly prescription bill, then you need to watch this program. Medicare Part D the next time on 22 Magazine, Saturday night at 7:30 on WVUT.
Well, Kurt, it doesn't seem to be as warm as it has been.
That's right, Emma. We've peaked in the low 60s today, but expect a warm up on the way. Good evening, everyone. As we take a look outside, it's currently partly cloudy and 62 degrees. Winds at north at 12 miles per hour, but they're gusting up to 21. Now, humidity is at 22% and the barometric pressure is at 29.98 and staying steady. Some area temperatures. We have Lagodi, Indiana at partly cloudy and 63. Salisbury, Indiana at sunny and 64. And Francisco, Indiana at partly cloudy and 61. And Parkersburg, Illinois is also partly cloudy and 61. Our national temperatures map will show that most of the U.S. is at the same temperatures between the 50s and the 70s right now. Most of the south, you can see they have some 80s down in Florida, with the hot spot right now at Orlando, Florida at 92. The rest of the country, you can see, still in the 50s and 60s. Denver right now is at 67. Yesterday they were at 32, so that's a 35-degree difference from yesterday. Down in Arizona, we have 84 in Phoenix and 81 down in Tucson. Now, as our surface map will show, over here we have severe weather. These two cold fronts have separated. This cold front has moved up into Canada, but this one is staying with this low pressure system and this rain down in the southern states. Now, they had severe thunderstorm warnings and rain today in parts of Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, all the way from Tallahassee up to Charleston, South Carolina. Now, that system is going to move north to northeast, but stay south of the Atlanta region. Now, Atlanta will expect some rain continuing today, but they won't get the severe stuff. Now, this high pressure system behind it will bring us clear skies into tomorrow and into Friday afternoon, where we expect a 20% chance of rain. And we might have some rain on Saturday as well. Let's take a look at your forecast. Tonight, clear, low of 39 degrees. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 71. Tomorrow night, mostly clear, low of 47. On Friday, we're partly cloudy. Like I said before, we have a 20% chance of rain. High of 74 and a low of 56. Saturday, we're going to be scattered thunderstorms with a 30% chance, with a high of 63 and the low of 56. And on Sunday, a 60% chance of rain with a high of 65 and a low of 53. And Emma, that's a look at your weather.
Okay, thanks, Kurt. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Michael Nice has the latest from the Major League ballparks.
want the truth. We'll help you find it. You want the whole story. We won't stop until it's uncovered. You want to think for yourself. We'll give you what you need to decide. Frontline. In a world full of questions, we answer to no one but you.
Pujols comes through again. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Michael Nice. Albert Pujols drove in the game-winning run in the bottom of the ninth inning today as St. Louis beat Pittsburgh 4-3. The Cards are now 9-3 in the new Busch Stadium. Also in the National League this afternoon, Bronson Arroyo and two relievers combined on a one-hitter as the Cincinnati Reds blanked the Washington Nationals 5-0, completing a three-game sweep. Arroyo struck out 8 over 8 innings, allowing only Ryan Zimmerman's single in the fourth. In Milwaukee, the Brewers won their third straight game with a 5-4 victory over Atlanta. And at Wrigley Field, the Cubs trail the Marlins 6-5 in the top of the ninth. Over in the American League, Oakland defeated Texas 6-4 in 10 innings. San Francisco Giants outfielder Barry Bonds crushed his 710th career home run last night against the New York Mets, leaving him only 4 behind Babe Ruth for the second on the all-time list. Bonds hammered a 1-1 pitch from Steve Traxel in the second inning for his second homer of the season. Traxel has surrendered 3 homers to Bonds during their careers. The Mets went on to win the game 4-1. Manny Ramirez crushed a tie-breaking 3-run homer in the 8th inning as Boston outscored Cleveland 8-6. Ramirez's third homer of the season came after an intentional walk to David Ortiz. Ramirez is hitting .400 with 10 RBIs in his last 10 games. Keith Folk got the win in relief of Kurt Schilling, who was trying to improve to 5-0. Jonathan Papelbon picked up his 9th save with a hitless 9th. Ben Brassard hit a 2-run homer for the Indians. Derek Jeter and Jason Giambi drove in 3 runs apiece to lead the New York Yankees' 9-1 rout of Tampa Bay. Jeter hit a 2-run homer in the first inning to support Mike Messina, who allowed 4 hits over 6+ innings. Steve Kazmir struggled with wildness while dropping to 2-2. The lefty allowed 3 earned runs on 7 hits and 5 walks in 5 innings. 10 former players and coaches have been elected to the college baseball's Hall of Fame inaugural class. The group includes Dave Winfield, who starred at the University of Minnesota, as well as fellow big leaguers Will Clark of Mississippi State and Robin Ventura from Oklahoma State. The late Rod Dedew, who helped Southern California win 11 College World Series titles, headlines the list of coaches. The Hall of Fame is based in Lubbock, Texas. Vince Carter poured in a game-high 33 points last night to lead the New Jersey Nets to a 90-75 victory over the Indiana Pacers. The win for the Nets evened the first-round playoff series at 1 game each. Game 3 will be tomorrow night in Indianapolis. Anthony Johnson, who hit 2 game-winning free throws in Sunday's 90-88 victory, led the Pacers with 17 points. Carter made his first 5 shots and finished 12 for 20 from the field and 8 for 9 from the free throw line. Pacers forward Peja Stojakovic was inactive for last night's playoff loss to the New Jersey Nets. A Pacers spokesman said Stojakovic had a sore right knee. Rookie Danny Granger replaced him in the starting lineup. Stojakovic, who worked out during the team's shoot-around yesterday morning, had 12 points and 5 rebounds in nearly 26 minutes Sunday in the Pacers' 90-88 win. Also in the NBA last night, Caron Butler shadowed LeBron James while scoring 21 points in the Wizards' 89-84 triumph at Cleveland. Butler was Washington's primary defender, while James was scoring 26 points on just 7 for 25 shooting. James had a triple-double in the Cavaliers' Game 1 victory. The Cavs wasted an outstanding performance by Drew Gooden, who grabbed 16 rebounds and scored 24 points on 11 of 12 shooting. Game 3 is Friday in Washington. The Green Bay Packers have officially welcomed back Brett Favre. In posting on the team's website, Executive Vice President Ted Thompson says the team is happy that Favre wants to play another season and is looking forward to the new year. Favre previously wasn't sure he'd be back after throwing for a career-high 29 interceptions for the 4-12 Packers last season. He ranks second to Dan Marino with 396 touchdown passes, 53,615 yards, and 4,678 completions. The NFL has suspended Ricky Williams for the entire 2006 season for his 4th violation of the league's substance abuse policy. The suspension was announced after Williams' appeal of his latest drug infraction was denied. The Miami Dolphins running back acknowledges testing positive for marijuana previously. The latest test apparently involved a drug other than marijuana. Williams served a 4-game suspension at the start of last year after sitting out the entire 2004 campaign. Notre Dame tight end Anthony Fasano and wide receiver Maurice Stovall are expected to be the first Irish players picked in the NFL draft this weekend. Fasano plans to be golfing Saturday when the draft gets underway. He says he wants to be relaxed. And finally in sports tonight, the Indiana High School Athletic Association plans to discuss proposals next week that would add a multiplier adjustment to enrollment figures for non-public schools. The proposals stem from complaints by some schools that private and parochial schools have become too successful under the class tourney format. And Emma, that's a look at sports.
Thanks, Michael. Still to come on Newscenter 22, the National Portrait Gallery in Washington unveiled portraits of Bill Clinton and Senator Hillary Clinton on Monday. Jenny Mose will critique the new additions when we return. Stay with us.
Tune in to WVUT this Thursday night. At 7 on This Old House, contractor Tom Silva jacks up joists to make a floor level with an addition, while outside landscape architect Gregory Lombardi unveils his front yard plan. Stay tuned for Antiques Roadshow at 8. Then at 9, California and the American Dream examines the transformation of Los Angeles from 1973 to 2005. Thursday night on WVUT.
The National Portrait Gallery has 2 new additions. Bill and Hillary Clinton have been framed, but Bill's somewhat unusual pose had one New Yorker magazine posing a racy headline. Jeannie Mose reports.
Take it off, President Clinton. Take it all off. The latest addition to the National Portrait Gallery is not your average presidential portrait pose.
He looks sort of slovenly. He looks a little gay.
Looks just like him, very strong and powerful.
But leave it to the New York Post to frame its front page with 2 words, and they aren't well done. They called him Hubba Bubba.
Oh dear.
All because of the hand on the hip pose by artist Nelson Shanks.
I could do that. Look.
Yeah, let's see it.
Look.
Exactly. At the unveiling, there was no such posturing. Bill's arm was demurely around Hillary. He spoke about how he thought of portraits growing up.
Portraits were pictures of dead people.
Don't tell that to tourists having their portraits done.
Handsome, very handsome.
Hillary's portrait was likewise unveiled.
She looks wonderful. I mean, Mrs. Clinton is just like, she's it.
This it was done by artist Ginny Stanford in the style of a Renaissance painting. Hillary looked like a Botticelli.
I wound up with a wife straight out of the Renaissance. It is so beautiful.
By the way, both paintings were paid for by Clinton supporters, not with taxpayer dollars. The painter of Bill's portrait says he wanted to show informality.
What's this? It is some gang signal here? It's like the Bloods.
All of this got us thinking about President Nixon allegedly walking around the White House talking to presidential portraits, though his son-in-law has called that an absurd accusation. But there he is talking to JFK in the movie Nixon.
When they look at you, they see what they want to be. When they look at me, see what they are.
And when they look at this, look at this, Billy. Some are tongue-tied.
There's no reason for the Post to say that about him.
Although, you know, ma'am, some people think it's a compliment. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
And that's all for this evening. Join us again tomorrow. For Michael Nice and Kurt Maddox, I'm Emma Hall. Good night.